Hello, and welcome to Everyday Simple Somatics, a podcast dedicated to helping you find healing through your body's natural wisdom. My name's Dr. Christine Baker, and I'll be your host. So I'm wondering if you have any tasks on your to-do list that have been there for a while. Maybe a few days, maybe a few weeks, maybe even some months, and you really do want to do them, check them off your list, maybe even need to do them, but every time you sit down to get started, something in you just won't. Maybe you open your laptop ready to type that book, or maybe you stare at the laundry pile or sit down to write that email and you find yourself scrolling instead of any of those things. Or maybe you just sit there staring, feeling shame for why can't I just do this? That voice inside saying, what's wrong with you? So what I want you to hear is that you are not lazy. You're not quote unquote, just a procrastinator. You don't have some crazy lack of willpower or discipline. Your nervous system is actually assessing the task as threat. And it's doing exactly what nervous systems do. In presence of threat, it protects you. And so today we're going to talk about why this happens, what's actually going on in your body when you can't seem to get started. And then I'm going to walk you through a somatic practice to help your nervous system feel safe enough to actually begin. So for those of you that are new here, I'm Dr. Christine Baker. I have been a licensed professional counselor for over 13 years, specializing in the field of trauma recovery. I'm also a somatic experiencing practitioner, which just means that I'm a person that believes strongly that trauma is stored in the body, specifically the nervous system. Therefore, we have to bring the body along with us in the trauma recovery process, which is actually the foundation for the beginning of this podcast. I wanted to create an easily accessible tool that offered practical somatic skills to people with specific symptoms. So you'll notice in the episode list, each episode is a different mental health symptom. And my hope is that I can create these short podcasts that include a somatic practice for each symptom so that whichever symptoms you identify with, you can take those practices and start to create nervous system rhythms of care so that caring for your nervous system becomes as natural as brushing your teeth every day. If that sounds like something you might be interested in, I'd love to invite you to like and subscribe to this podcast on whatever platform you are currently watching or listening. And last week, we started something new where I go through and read and thank you our 5-star reviews on our podcast apps. So we are currently working through the iTunes one, and we read the macchiatos last week. This week, we are going to read one from Christy, and she titles it Quick Actionable Tips for Healing. Oh my gosh, that's literally what I just said about my goal for the podcast. So this is already starting out so exciting. She said, this is an amazing podcast for learning the tools for calming your nervous system in any triggering situation. The episodes are short and provide actionable, practical tips that you can put into place immediately while you're listening. Dr. Baker's kind and soothing voice immediately puts you at ease and you feel like a friend is leading you through the exercises. Highly recommend. Okay, I swear I did not write this one. It's like literally sounds exactly like what I just said is my goal for the show. So that's incredible. It's hilarious that she says my voice is soothing because you know when you like hear yourself on a voicemail and you're like, oh, I hate it. I sound so weird. I don't sound like me. That's exactly how I feel every time I listen to the podcast. So I'm going to trust Christy and let those feelings go. Thank you so much, Christy, for your kind words. If you have enjoyed this podcast, I'd love to invite you to create one of those little 5-star reviews so that I can read and thank you live on the podcast as well. Okay, let's jump in to talk about procrastination. So we currently live in a culture with a very simple, short story about procrastination. And the story goes like this. You're not doing the thing because you must not want it bad enough. Or you're not doing the thing because you need more discipline or more motivation. A better morning routine, a stricter accountability system. Just push through and do it. Ultimately, we spend this time trying to shame ourselves into starting whatever that item is on our to-do list. Maybe we make a mental list of consequences if we don't, or we tell ourselves that we're falling behind or that we're disappointing people, or that, oh, look, this proves exactly what so-and-so said about me when I was 13. And maybe that works briefly, but it sure doesn't feel good. It sure doesn't support your nervous system. And for most people, it doesn't even work at all because the reality is shame doesn't motivate a dysregulated nervous system. Shame itself is a threat signal. And so when we just add more threat to a system that's already in protective mode, it just is going to make that freeze deeper. And so, what is actually happening in the body when we procrastinate? So, looking at it through a nervous system lens, Dr. Bessel Kolk, in his book, The Body Keeps the Score, explains that when the nervous system perceives a threat, any threat, including the threat of failure or judgment or overwhelm, it does something very specific to the brain. It takes that prefrontal cortex offline. And the prefrontal cortex is exactly the part of the brain that you need to plan and prioritize and initiate and follow through on complex tasks. And so when your nervous system is in a state of threat activation, you are literally working without the most important tool to get started. You are trying to write the report with the planning center part of your brain being switched off. No wonder it feels impossible, right? And then Dr. Peter Levine, the founder of somatic experiencing, gives us another really important piece to this puzzle in his concept of titration. If you haven't heard me talk about this before, titration comes from chemistry, and it's the process of introducing a substance in tiny, careful doses so that whatever you're introducing it to doesn't get overwhelmed and blow up, right? Well, it's the same with nervous system. It's like, okay, we don't need to approach this huge piece of trauma healing holistically. Let's just take one little drop at a time so that we don't overwhelm the system. And we're kind of in between each drop, pausing to let the nervous system register safety again before moving forward. Well, when we try to bulldoze past our procrastination through willpower or shaming ourselves, we're essentially doing the opposite of titration, right? We're trying to flood a system that actually needs gentleness. And underneath all of that is often a freeze response. Dr. Levine describes freeze as what happens when the nervous system perceives a threat, but no viable path of fleeing that threat or fighting that threat. So it immobilizes instead. And here's the really important thing about freeze. Freeze is not the absence of energy. It's actually a tremendous amount of energy that's been locked down. So that paralyzed feeling that you have when you're just staring at your laptop with that, little cursor blinking at you because you don't know what word to type, it's not emptiness. It's activation that has nowhere to go, which means that the path through procrastination isn't to add more pressure. Please don't. It's to release the freeze and then to approach the task in tiny, safe doses, to give your nervous system a chance to learn that it's okay to begin. So I want to walk you through a practice where we are going to approach procrastination, not from a forcing, pushing, shaming lens, but gently and safely. Because my hope is, like I mentioned last week, that this somatic skill can help you work with your procrastination, not in a I'm going to shame myself through it, but rather in a very embodied way so that you can actually be present to the task that you're trying to complete. So you can do this practice anywhere. I think it would be great if you could do it near the place where you're needing to do the work, whether that be your laundry room or your desk. But if you're not near that right now, that's okay. You can always come back to this practice when you are. So if you are ready to begin, I'd love to invite you to just notice where you are, maybe take a little look around, and then allow yourself to have a nice breath. And so first, before we do anything else, we need to give that locked energy, that freeze energy, somewhere to go. Because remember, freeze is an emptiness. It's activation that's kind of held inside. And we can't think or plan or create our way out of the freeze state. We have to move our way out of it. So I'd love to invite you to stand up if you're able. I'm going to do that as well. And then I'd love to invite you to just begin to gently shake. Maybe start with your hands, just let them go loose. I'm just kind of, for those of you that are on video, I'm just kind of doing this almost like I have water on my hands that I'm just shaking off. And then kind of let that move up your arms. So now your whole arms are shaking. Maybe let your knees get a little soft and bouncy. This might feel silly. I'm doing it on YouTube, so you can do it at home by yourself. And just allow your body to shake around, to move for about 30 seconds. Nothing forceful, nothing dramatic. It doesn't have to look like those crazy videos on Instagram. You're just loosening yourself up. Just kind of a little release of any tension or anything in your body that says, I can't move right now, I'm frozen. We're trying to show your body, no, I'm not frozen. I can move. Everything can move right now. You're just giving your nervous system permission to discharge some of that locked activation. Oh my gosh, I feel so much better right now after just that short little bit of moving around, because I've been staring at my computer for a while, so I probably had a little bit of freeze inside. So that felt so good. So once you're done with your little shake, I want you to come back to stillness. Maybe take a breath. Just notice if anything feels slightly different, maybe a little bit more warmth, maybe a little bit more looseness. I feel like alive. That sounds dramatic. I feel like there's like more energy in my body. Maybe that's a different way to say it. Any small change that's there is your nervous system responding. So just take a second to track that. And then for part 2 of this exercise, we are going to use Levine's concept of titration to approach the task in small, safe steps. And so this part may feel absurdly slow, and that's exactly the point. So stay with me, even though it feels silly, okay? So what I want you to do is I want you to physically turn your body in the direction of your workspace. Okay, so maybe it's towards your laptop, maybe it's towards, like I said, your laundry room, maybe it's towards a document or a notebook or whatever it is. And what I want you to do, so turn your body towards it and just notice what happens, just with turning your body and your attention towards that object. What happens in your breath, in your muscles? Is there a tightening? Is there a pulling away? Just noticing it without judgment. That sensation is your nervous system's threat signal. And what we're going to do is we're going to be with it instead of ignoring it or trying to run over it. Okay, so whatever it is, I feel a little bit of tightening in my gut. I want you to just take a breath, feel your feet on the floor, notice how you're being supported, and then ask yourself, right now in this moment, am I safe? Not is the task safe? Not will it go well? Will I do okay? Just right now, in my body, in this room, am I safe? And for most of us, the answer is yes. And that yes is what I want you to offer back to your nervous system. Okay? So notice the safety around you. Notice what happens in your body. And whenever you're ready, I want you to take one step towards your object. Notice what happens. And then you'll go through that whole cycle bit by bit, right? So once you've gotten close enough to your laptop, maybe eventually the next step is to open your laptop. Notice what happens with that. So you're just taking it baby step at a time. What you're doing is you're teaching your nervous system one tiny step at a time that moving towards this thing doesn't actually mean danger. That's titration. And then finally, the last part. So once you've done great titration towards your project or to-do list item, we're going to work on the bridge between approaching and actually starting. And so this is the step I think that a lot of people may skip, even if they do try to work with some embodiment around procrastination. And so they'll end up sitting down and freezing out again. So before you open the document, before you look at the task, before you do anything else, just pause and take 60 seconds to anchor back into your body. So feel the weight of your body in the chair, really let yourself be held by it, resting back down into it. Take that slow breath where your exhale is a little longer than your inhale. Let your shoulders drop. Unclench your jaw, and then just set a gentle intention, not a deadline, not pressure, just an intention of, I'm going to start, just start. I don't have to finish. I don't have to be perfect. I'm just going to begin, and let your nervous system take that in. Just begin is not a threat. Just begin feels a lot safer to me. And then very gently, without drama, intensity, putting your hands on the keyboard, you begin. And so that's it. That's the approach. Release the freeze, titrate towards the task, and then anchor back into your body and to the things that are supporting you before you begin. I hope this was a helpful practice for you. And we will be back next week to talk about something that I think will resonate deeply with a lot of you, especially those of you who kind of identify as like high capacity, go, always on people. We're going to talk about what happens when rest itself feels unsafe. So when you finally sit down, instead of feeling relief, your body fills up with like anxiety and restlessness or dread. These are going to be those people that have a really hard time with silence. So we're going to talk about, why does this happen? What is your nervous system doing? And how can I start to build a relationship with stillness and slowness that can actually be resourcing? So I cannot wait to share this one with you. I really resonate with this one as well. And if you are ready to take this work deeper, the Somatic Wellness Collective is a great place to start. It is my online membership community where we do exactly that together. You get a lot of on-demand somatic classes, live classes, including Q&As. And then we have this incredibly beautiful community of people who are learning how to apply this material to their everyday life. Because I think like knowing this stuff intellectually is powerful, but practicing it supported by a incredibly kind community is where real change happens. And so if you are interested, the link is in the show notes below. Thank you so much for being here today. Don't forget to like and subscribe before you leave. And as we close, I just want to remind you, your body has innate wisdom. All we have to do is learn how to listen to it. And that's what I'm here for. I'll see you next week.